Hello everyone and welcome to Safer London's webinar on safe spaces. My name is Leah and I'm joined by my colleague Yvonne, and we are peer facilitators at Safer London. So what we do mainly is deliver group work to young people like yourselves across London, and we talk about various different topics like the one we'll be discussing with you today. So thank you for joining us.
So what we're going to look at today is how to identify the different places within the community that might make us feel both safe and unsafe. We're going to try and be able to risk assess or weigh up the risks that might present in different areas or spaces that we're in. And lastly, we're going to look at how to develop a plan to keep ourselves and others safe in unsafe spaces.
So what is safety? So safety is the state of being safe. It's the condition of being protected from harm or other non-desirable outcomes. There are a few factors that can impact our thoughts on whether we consider somewhere or something safe. So one example is our experiences. So if you've had a good experience or you never felt in danger or in a certain area, then you may class that place as safe. But someone who has had a negative experience in that same area may view that place to be unsafe. Another factor is familiarity. So it's likely that we often feel safer around people or in areas that we know well, even if those people or that particular area is known for being dangerous. Something else to consider is our environment. So environment is the surroundings that we live in. And we've all grown up and live in different environments, and we can become used to certain things that may take place in the area that we live in. So this may mean that we don't feel particularly unsafe because we're used to something, or used to certain things happening that may feel unsafe for those who don't live in our environments. And lastly, another factor that can influence our idea of safety is our support networks. So knowing people and being able to go to those people to talk to for help can impact how safe we feel in a certain area or around certain people.
So what are some of the factors that make a place safe? Some things might be the presence of key trusted adults or friends, perhaps somewhere that is familiar to you that you know really well, like we touched on earlier, somewhere that's bright, clean and well lit, somewhere that has good phone and internet connection, and also a place with lots of transport links, buses, trains, trams that you can jump on if you need to. Somewhere that has lots of buildings with lots of people in them, particularly professionals such as security workers or supermarket staff that you can access if you need to. And also somewhere that you feel relaxed, happy and secure in.
Some of the factors that can make a place unsafe is somewhere that is known for criminal activity, so somewhere where it's known for violence or assaults taking place, exploitation, robbery or vandalism as well. Places where drug and alcohol misuse is quite high. Somewhere that is unfamiliar, so if you just don't know a particular place that well, it can make that place can feel unsafe as well. And somewhere where you may have been approached by strangers and that can make you feel uncomfortable. Somewhere that's far from home or far from school as well. And there's somewhere that makes you feel helpless or powerless. And lastly, another place or another thing that can make you feel unsafe is somewhere where you felt discriminated against. For example, if you've been stopped and searched on numerous occasions in a certain area, and that can make you feel apprehensive and can make you feel nervous as well.
Now we're going to think about different ways to assess or think about risks that we might be exposed to in any given space or place, and some of the questions that we might ask ourselves to identify them. For example, does a parent, carer or older sibling, for example, know that I'm here? Do I feel able to leave anytime I want? Do I know where the exits and entrance ways are? Do I know the way home and if I'm able to leave if I wanted to? Do I trust the people that I'm with? And can I be honest with them about any worry or anxiety that I feel in a place? And are those people going to support me with that? Is there a good connection? Do I have access to data or Wi-Fi if I need to call someone? And do I have enough battery on my phone if I needed to call someone? And lastly, are there any safe strangers, for example, teachers or shop staff members people with small children, if necessary, that I can access if I needed to. Now we're going to play a short video of our colleague Claire talking about her work with a young person and their experiences of responding to risk while out in the community.
So I was working with a young person and we were discussing street-based harassment, and she had told me about this situation where she was walking home from school and she was walking down the street and noticed that an older man was following her, and she started to feel very uncomfortable, understandably. And so in that moment, you know, of feeling unsafe in a public space, she kind of looked around to see who might be there that could assist her. And she had spotted a mum pushing a baby's carriage a little bit further up the street. And so she kind of just ran up to this woman and pretended to know her. I think just called her a made-up name. And the mum clearly clocked immediately that this young person felt unsafe, and so she just played along with it, and so they just chatted and talked until the man had gone, and then that young woman felt safe enough that she could go and continue the rest of her walk home by herself. So, and I thought that that was really resourceful of her to think about that and to do that. And I'm working alongside lots of different young people. I know that, you know, that lots of you have lots of resources and lots of skills as far as thinking about how you might navigate these tricky situations. But I guess it's always really useful to talk to each other about, you know, those situations that you may have had, or maybe what you did at that time, and really kind of share these ideas together. So that you feel better equipped, perhaps if a situation comes up, that you've got a big toolkit to be able to respond. But I know that, you know, other young people, if they're feeling unsafe in a public space, they might, you know, jump into the nearest takeaway restaurant. They might look for, I know that during lockdown it's a little bit more challenging, but, you know, they might look for a corner store, or they might look for a Sainsbury's or a grocery store, whatever it may be. And if there are things that aren't necessarily around for you to go into, so if you're in a park or in a street where there aren't any shops, sometimes it's also just thinking about who are the what we would call the adult guardians, so who are the adults in that space at that point in time that you might be able to ask for help. So if you're in the park, it could be the Parks and Cemeteries team that do work there. It could be street cleaners. It could be, you know, anyone you see that you might be able to ask for help. So sometimes it's also just thinking about who are the adults around you who might be able to assist. And if they can't assist, they might be able to call someone who can help you. But yeah, just thinking it's really important just to think around, you know, who are those people in that space with you, but also having a chat with your friends as well and asking them, you know, what they may have done in the past that might be useful for you when you're thinking about feeling safe in public spaces.
So following on from that video and Claire sharing that young person's experience, now we're going to be looking at safety planning and things that we can do both in the short term and the long term to increase our sense of safety. So short term or more immediate actions that we can take are letting a trusted adult, such as a parent, carer, or even an older sibling, know where we are at any given time. Keeping our phones fully charged for any emergency calls, texts, or any kind of communication that you need to make. Making sure you have enough money for a cab, whether that's cash or a debit card, and having your Oyster card topped up to be able to get on public transport if you need to. Traveling with people you trust and feel relatively safe with. And if possible, strongly considering whether we need to make that journey in the first place. Trust your gut instinct. If a place feels unsafe, then you don't need to justify your actions. Just make the decision and leave if you need to. And lastly, call the police if in danger, or the ambulance if someone's seriously hurt. Now, focusing on long-term measures that we could take, some examples could be memorizing or writing down key contact numbers in case your phone dies or gets lost. Finding alternative spaces or places to hang out, perhaps where you can actually do an activity. For example, your local youth club or community centre. And they might have events on, or open spaces like skate parks that you can take your skateboards or bikes along to if you have any of those things. And also share your concerns about unsafe spaces with trusted adults, such as teachers or parents or carers or community leaders. And if home is unsafe, as hard as it might be, it's really important that you reach out and speak to someone, such as, again, a teacher or a social worker if one is working with you, a support worker, or someone from an organisation like Childline. And we'll be talking more about such organisations a bit later in the webinar.
Right, so online grooming. So it's important to highlight that a safe space isn't just limited to places that we can go to physically. So this also applies to spaces online. So online spaces include Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, gaming sites, live streaming, Omegle, WhatsApp, chat rooms, dating apps, and some of them you can see on the screen as well. So there's various different platforms. And one of the things that can make online an unsafe space is online grooming that can take place. So this is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or a young person so they can manipulate, exploit, or abuse them. And any young person can be at risk of being groomed, so regardless of your age, gender, race, or location. Online groomers can often target sites and platforms that are popular amongst young people. On social media, they may send a large number of requests to be friends or to follow just to see who will respond. And on gaming sites, they may start up a conversation and try to build a relationship that way. It can take place over a short period of time or a long period of time, and it may start out publicly on social media, but may also move to, or most likely will move to private chats as well. It isn't hard for a person to pretend to be someone else on the internet. So it's very possible that a young person can end up having a conversation with someone whose real identity isn't actually known. So I don't know if you've ever seen or heard of the show called Catfish on MTV. And this is a show that helps people connect with someone that they have met online. Now, if you've seen it, you will know that 9 times out of 10, the person that they are talking to is never really the person or isn't the person that they've used in their profile picture. And often these people have been scammed out of money. They've been encouraged to send sexual images of themselves or other compromising pictures of themselves. And they've shared really private information with people that they don't actually really know. So with this in mind, let's have a look at some of the most common signs of online grooming that you may need to be aware of. So the first one is an online groomer may use similar interests and compliments to try and build a relationship with you. They may want to talk in private and eventually meet up face to face. And they may share personal information about themselves or others in an attempt to try and get you to share personal information about yourself as well. They're most likely to send sexual images and videos of themselves and then also encourage you to do the same, be it a message, and be it an image, or be it a video as well. And they may put pressure on you. And that pressure can look very kind of soft. It doesn't always have to look like, a really intimidating type of pressure. It could be a type of, I trust you, do you trust me type pressure. So that's how it can look as well. They may encourage you to keep contact private and to keep secrets as well. And they're always available. So whenever you message, they'll message straight away as well. And lastly, they may encourage you not to talk to people that you actually trust. So this could be friends or family. So encouraging you to keep your relationship with them a secret.
We're going to play a short video that illustrates the importance of online safety and the risks posed to young people online.
Okay, so that video was just an example of some of the things we previously discussed. And it's also important to note that grooming online or being manipulated online isn't just something that adults do to young people, but young people can also do it to each other. They may not realize that's what they're doing, but it's very possible that it could be another person that's the same age as you, who can be manipulating you, as we've seen in that video of taking images and then saying, well, if you don't give me money, I'll send it to your school. So yeah, that's just one thing to keep in mind. So in terms of online safety, so what can we do then that can help us improve our safety online? One of the things is keeping your personal information and details private, as private as possible. Disable your location when making a post, or disable your camera location as well. Don't overshare images or videos, even if the person appears trustworthy, even if they've shared images of themselves. That's their decision. Encourage them not to if they are sending you those kind of things, but don't feel as if you have to share because they have as well. Limit the social media sites that have access to your data. So if you receive a message requesting access, just deny it. Think carefully before you click or open a link or something sent to you online. So if you ever kind of, even if you're just browsing on the internet, often there's different pop-ups of different things that show up. And if it doesn't look familiar, just don't click on it as well. Understand your privacy settings, have unique passwords, make your account private as well. Take the time to report something that's upsetting. So as Yvonne mentioned previously, trust your gut instinct. So that was a short-term goal, or a short-term thing that you can do in terms of safety. But you can also do that in terms of safety online. If something feels uncomfortable, if something doesn't feel right, trust yourself and have conversations with your friends and family about these things that are happening. And they may be able to give you some good advice or a bit more insight into something as well. And lastly, respect others as well.
Now we're going to look at some examples of safe spaces online that young people can go to or access if they need support about a range of issues, including keeping safe online and offline. We have Childline here, which we mentioned earlier in the webinar. Childline has a counselling service helpline and a website filled with lots of information, advice and guidance for young people about what to do if you're at risk of harm, if you're worried, concerned, or just have questions about anything that you might be struggling with. Young Minds is an organisation that supports children and young people's mental health. They also have a free 24-hour crisis helpline and a website packed with lots of information that young people can access if they need to. The Mix is a leading support service for young people. They have a website and a helpline, and they also have a confidential crisis text messaging service to help young people with any issues that they might be facing, including safety, relationships, mental health, and so much more. And we have Think You Know, which is an educational program from CEOP. It's a UK organisation that protects children both online and offline, and you can access information, guidance and advice based on your age range too.
Okay, so thank you for joining our webinar today. We've come to the end of our Safe Spaces discussion. If you have any questions or any comments that you'd like to make, please leave them in the chat box or the Q&A box and we'll be happy to answer them.